Good morning. Welcome back, everyone, to the OpenShift Coffee Break. My name is Natalia Vinto, Product Marketing Manager for OpenShift. Today, I'm with my awesome co-host. Hello, Jafar.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us again.
Hello, Andrea.
Hello, everybody.
Thank you for joining us today. Jafar, Andrea, today we have a very special guest. I'm pleased to introduce you, Johannes. And Johannes, is the pronunciation good? Brännström.
Hello.
Please tell us the right one.
I'm sure it would be easier to set up Mongo than getting the pronunciation correct.
Welcome, Johannes.
Welcome. How are you?
Brännström, yeah.
Maybe there's a little bit of delay, but Johannes, welcome to the show. Today, the topic is how we get. It's part of our database as a service services series. Today, we're going to talk about how to consume and use MongoDB from a Kubernetes class, from an OpenShift cluster in this case. Basically, we're going to talk about the MongoDB Atlas operator, and we will see how to connect the database as a service of Atlas. So I'm really excited for this show today, Johannes.
And hopefully I will learn something today because I have never used MongoDB. So it's time for me to understand a little bit more about the use cases as well. I can ask some questions.
Yeah, I definitely looking forward to that. Also, I'm not sure you are what I'm hearing, but I do hear a lot of echo. But I'm just gonna get started. So most of you, well, I guess everyone knows OpenShift. Most of you have heard about MongoDB. So there are, let's say, 3 flavors of operators that we do with MongoDB, and really the whole purpose is to make it easy to use MongoDB. And I actually used to work for Red Hat as well, and one of my kind of ideas of kind of connecting with MongoDB is that it really is a database that aligns really well with containers and OpenShift. So yeah, but obviously operators is a great way of running things in Kubernetes and OpenShift as well. So that's why we built them. I'm just gonna start with one quick slide here. So we actually offer 3 different Kubernetes operators. So one to support the community instances, one to support enterprise instances, which also comes with a tool called Ops Manager, which allows you to do point-in-time back restores for backups, and also database level encryption and really good monitoring that's bundled directly there. But today we're really going to talk about the Atlas operator, and actually more specifically the Red Hat MongoDB Atlas operator. So, and the reason for that is our MongoDB Atlas operator just went GA, like version 1.0 last week. And the one that's installed in the sandbox, which we're going to use today, is the version 0.2. So, all right. So this is the OpenShift Sandbox that that actually is open for anyone to sign up and use, which is really neat. And as this one loads, we'll see that I think I had removed that. Let me just check.
Yeah, this give us the opportunity, Johannes, to talk about what we're going to do today. We're going to demo how to consume the MongoDB Atlas cluster from an OpenShift cluster. In this case, this is a free tier OpenShift cluster that everyone can use. It's called the Developer Sandbox for OpenShift. We put the link in the chat. If you like to register, it's free to use. 30 days renewable for free. So you can start deploying your Kubernetes apps with OpenShift Sandbox. And in the demo, we will see how it's easy to connect databases and database as a services using a very cool technology, Jafar Andrea, called the service binding. Kubernetes service binding. Did you? I'm curious, Jafar, Andre, did you ever use the service binding? What do you think about?
Yeah, so I used it. I haven't used it very recently, but I liked that idea of making it easier to connect your applications to some backends just by drag and dropping stuff. So I think it's really cool because in terms of user experience, it makes it much easier to consume. The only thing you need to figure out is like how you set up what environment variables are going to be injected when you do that operation, and so I think it's based on some annotations that you need to put on some parameters so they get injected, etc. But that's just the little thing that you have to figure out when you are first getting started with the operator and need to understand how it works. But once this is figured out, I think it's really cool to be able to just drag and drop the arrows and have everything set up.
Yeah. So am I going to get started and show you a little bit of that? There's a bit of echoes. I'm not really sure where we are.
Johannes, for the echoes, I think do you have the YouTube page also open?
No, I only have this page right here.
Okay, that's weird.
But
yeah, especially since you are using your headphones. So
yeah, that's weird, Johannes. I don't know if so. Did the echo started when we started streaming?
Yeah, it did start when we start streaming.
Okay,
exactly.
Okay, let's see what.
Maybe should I try and log back in or?
Okay, yeah. Please try again to log in. We will in the while we wait for you here, and Jafar and Andrea, service binding, but also it's cool that we can connect the databases as a service. So today we're going to talk about two topics. One, the in-cluster database that you can consume with an operator. So MongoDB or other vendor put the logic in this operator to have your database as a service in cluster. And also you can connect to external cluster in an easy way, as you mentioned, Jafar, with the service binding. So you are connecting this. So you don't have to write the Kubernetes secret. You don't have to write the configuration. It's done under the hood, and we will see in the demo how.
Okay.
Hey, back.
Yes, I'm back, and now it works perfectly. Okay, so sorry about that.
No problem.
No worries. That's better.
Right.
Excitement of live demos.
Exactly. There's always something. But anyway, so yeah, we now have kind of a clean slate here, and I want to start by connecting the operator. Let's say configuring the operator. So we're going to use the provider account offered by Red Hat, and going to create that, and then I need to select a database provider. In this case, going to pick the Atlas one. And there's a set of configuration items there. I'm actually going to just get it from the side since it's a credential. I'm not gonna show you that. But
so, Johannes, just to explain, we're connecting to the Atlas database as a service. Is there any free tier that the user can use to run stuff?
Yeah. There is, and that is actually what we're going to use by default. So this operator is by default creating free tier clusters, and those are free forever. So it's a great way to work and play with this. It's also a great way to set up your your own projects. For example, if you want to investigate this at home, for example, you can definitely use this for that purpose as well.
So as a developer, go, Jafar.
Yeah, sorry, I was gonna ask, how do we subscribe to the account, like the provider access? How do we get that?
Yeah, so let's see. What I just did there was I went in there and put in some configuration details. If I would do that again, you see that I need to supply some account credentials. And what you would do in order to get access to those is that you would go into the mongodb.com. So this part here, mongodb.com, and you would create an account. Or if your organization has an account, you could use that. And then you would get those details from for the organization access. So there's something that's called API keys. You can generate a new one. So in this case, I generated one for the OCP Sandbox, Openshift Sandbox, which I'm using. And yeah, and then that's basically the details. That's the public key, private key, and I will also need the organization ID, which you can find here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Also, when you pick this one, it does offer you, a mouse overs, so it can tell you where to get those.
Okay.
Here directly. Yeah.
Cool.
So now we've kind of connected OpenShift with my Atlas account, and I would like to also add an actual Atlas cluster. Here we're actually going to use the MongoDB Atlas standard, let's say, operator, the 0.2 version, to connect to the actual cluster. I do have a cluster running already, but I do want to also show you that we can create a new database instance using this. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to use this provider account that I just defined, and I'm going to create an instance which is called something fruits carcass maybe, and then also workers project, something like that. And now that's being created, the operator is telling Atlas that it needs to do things. So we can also have a look. We now see that we have.
Can you increase a little bit the font, Johannes, so we can
increase
see
the screen? Yeah, like this.
No, the font size. So.
Fonts. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah. So now we can see that things are happening. There's now this Fruits Quarkus project that we defined, and we have this Fruits Quarkus cluster being created. So and this is all controlled from within the operator. And so you can also see.
Yeah, if you click on View Database Instances, what does it say?
Yeah, so it's saying that there is also this new Fruits Quarkus one, so it's informed about what's happening. You can also see the new cluster that I've been creating now is also visible here. So these are basically the way that you would add those is that you can do search, and you can do search for resources, and you can do Atlas cluster. And you can add that to your navigation. So that's what I did. And then you can see a little bit more detail. For example, you can actually see the status. You can see that it's creating, and the cluster ready is false. And yeah, you get a lot of details, and it's continuously checking the status of it.
Okay.
So what I also want to do is I want to add that one as it becomes available to my developer perspective. But I also don't want to do that before it's been completed, because also checking this one, you will see that at this point, when it's still not ready, there is still not the connection string available here. So we really needed to wait until it's done creating before we actually.
And is there another place where we can see the status, or is that the only way in the YAML?
I would expect that it should show here. You should also be able to see here.
Yeah. Down there. You can see cluster is provisioning.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, so you get the feedback from the OpenShift UI as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really nice. So you don't strictly need to go into Atlas to check. You are informed directly from within OpenShift.
I'm
So while we're
just realizing
waiting,
that we didn't take our coffee sip, guys.
no coffee for me today. Running out of coffee beans.
No, oh, come on, strict to the plan.
Yeah, now it's a good time for coffee.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, that's cool, Johannes. Sorry, Andrea. I was saying I like how you customize the web console, so you can have your custom resource basically. The operator is bringing those, and I wanted just to say that this operator has been already installed in this OpenShift cluster, so the new user can have it. But if you have your own OpenShift cluster somewhere, you can install it from Operator Hub, and you will have the same experience.
Yeah, and so now we can see that the cluster is ready
Yeah.
because it's status true. So that's good news.
Yes, that's good
Means
news. And now we can actually get that one into our topology to add the database instance resource. And one more thing that we need to do is that we need to make sure we can connect to it, because by default there is no outgoing. There's no way that you can connect to it, Atlas. So it's very secure by default, but it also means that we need to do one more thing. So what we want to do is that we want to edit our Atlas project, and we want to add the no, not that one. Let me get the right thing. Want to add a project IP access list. So for this demo, I don't know exactly what the outgoing IPs of the OpenShift cluster is. So I'm actually going to allow access from anywhere.
So what you mean is that you can restrict the IP addresses that can connect to your database, just to make sure that not anyone can just come and have the right password or whatever and get connected.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So finding the right password is not easy to do, but there's an extra layer of security that we do have there.
Okay.
That's cool. So if you know beforehand the seeder block of the OpenShift cluster, you could use that just to restrict the access, or the certain, sometimes we do some segmentation of the cluster where there's the data zone or the worker zone, no? So you can elect a couple of nodes to be the database nodes, and only the IP address of those nodes can access the database. So it's powerful to control from the user, no, also the access to the cluster.
Yeah, and what you can also do is that you can set defaults on the organizational level, so that each specific team wouldn't necessarily need to do that, but you can actually inform the operator about that. I didn't see actually that with the operator that I'm using right now, but I know that the OpenShift the Atlas 1.0 version does allow that. Anyway, now we are set. We have the IP address list, and we have our service here. We also want to deploy our application, so we can do something with this. And we're going to deploy a container image, and this is probably going to be a common view for a lot of you. You see Quarkus spinning up, but it's beautiful. So let's do that. And we're going to have the Quarkus icon because it's beautiful as well. And we're just going to go with the defaults. So now we have our Quarkus container spinning up here. And we're going to use the service binding. You see this little arrow here. we're going to use that one to have to inject the service bindings. So how, username, password, these kind of things, and it will then create this binding for us. Then the container is going to restart based on this new information, and we can go and have a look. So this is the default landing page, but we actually want to see the actual backend, and that's located over here. So now we can add fruits, and why not a banana? It's let's say yellow, and you can save that, and that one is now saved there. And let's have a look if something actually came into the database here. So we can look at what's inside here. We see that we have a collection created. We see that we have now the banana and yellow here. So yeah, really simple to do that. There's a lot of metrics here as well that you can see, a lot of things that you can enable. This is a little bit limited on the free tier, but anyway. There's also a profiler that you can do, well, if you upgrade. Also performance advisor, which is going to recommend index and schema. So there's a lot of tools for you as a developer to do things right. Something that might not be that well known is that you can also use full text search on top of your data. So, and for this specific application where we have, user input, it would be really nice to have kind of a search box or something, as the list of fruits grows ever larger. And you will be able to autocomplete the name and stuff like that. So
nice.
That's something you can do with Atlas as backend.
Very nice. And so, just one question about the magic that happened. How is the connection made between the application and the backend? I'm guessing it uses some environment variables somewhere, but how do we get those, and where does it come from?
Yeah, so it's this service bindings. So it actually is in practice using a secret.
Okay.
That it is it actually this anyway going to go away. So it has the host of the server. It has the password and all of that. So that's the information. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this the secret has been created automatically.
Yeah.
Okay. And then how does the application know where to store? What's the database instance name and stuff like that?
That's part of the secret. So there's a convention that you need to do on the application side. So basically, the application needs to support service bindings. And by supporting service binding, it means that it's looking for a service binding, what do you call it? It's the secret. I think not necessarily annotation. It's looking for it as a file, I think, on the file system.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, like a config map.
Yeah, exactly, like a config map. Yeah.
Yeah, in this case, this Quarkus app, I think it's using the extension to use the service binding. There are also, for instance, in Spring Boot, so also in Node.js. So you have to use this plugin or extension to use the Kubernetes service binding. In the Quarkus case, I think it's going to inject in the application properties, host name, username, password. In the other programming languages, it's going to be the same.
Okay.
I have a question about the roles. So at the beginning of this demo, you showed how you basically set up through the operators, the connections, providing all the credentials, the organization, etc. And then you made available to the topology the actual connection to specific databases. Now, is it something that a developer would do, or the developer has at this point a list of databases that they have access to, and so they don't have to worry about connection? They may not even know all the credentials, or is that not the model?
Yeah, so exactly. So in this specific, it's a little bit special setup in the sandbox because you do want developers to be able to set up the organization. That's also why I picked this way of demoing. But for example, the way that you would use the Atlas 1.0 version, then you would have someone like the organization that your sysadmin, your OpenShift admin, to set up your Atlas credentials for like an organization-wide Atlas account. And then those credentials will not be stored in individual developer workspaces. So you will not actually have a chance to add your own Atlas credentials, and you will not have access to them either. But you would have access to see what clusters are available to you, and that kind of thing. Does that answer your question?
Yes. And I was also wondering if there is a way to basically monitor usage, or how many developers are connected to, or whether it is at the developer level or whatever service account that is connecting to that database, just to have do a bit of housekeeping in a sense. I'm always thinking of large organizations with a number of developers. Effectively, they're using a shared database that's on the cloud. So would they go through a UI, or is there a way to understand who is using what database from OpenShift?
You could look at the Atlas cluster definitions, but you can also look at the service bindings. So the service bindings themselves would be specific to every application. So let's see if we can do a search for service bindings. I would expect so. Let's have a look. And this, obviously, if I'm searching in a developer view, I'll just find what's visible to me. But if you are searching as an admin, you'd be able to search across all of them. And then I would like to see.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What are you looking for, a role?
Yeah, I'm looking for the. No, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Role binding is the wrong one. I was looking for the service binding. Yeah.
Yeah. So just type in service. Yeah. Okay. Service
Yeah,
binding.
okay. Yeah. Here we go. Okay. So there are a couple of different ones. I guess the operators.
Just select all of them, and you'll see which one has like an instance.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So this one. And yeah, so basically you would be able to see, I guess you would do something like this, and you write Mongo as well. So you would find those that start with Mongo, for example. But this is just the name, right? So I could give it a different name also. But yeah, I mean, you can see this is the one that it's creating right now. So that's going to give you a good idea. And then you can always look at the details as well. So you would be able to see if what we are targeting, database service connection, and actually it wasn't that easy to see, I would say. Yeah, I would say it's probably easier if because this one is a quite general concept. It's probably going to be easier if you're using the Atlas 1.0, because it's going to be more specific, and there's probably going to be more specific annotations to MongoDB on those.
I guess I was wondering if, because I saw those extensions to the UI, and I saw the Atlas database users, and I was wondering if that was related to basically assigning different users to different teams or developers, just to see how that's.
Yeah, so I think there is something. There seems to be some kind of bug, I think, with this one right now. On the right now,
okay.
it doesn't show up. But otherwise, yes, that is definitely the intention, to mirror the database user resource. And since any application would need its own database user, that would be something that makes sense, right? To look at.
Okay.
Indeed. So I would also say that, I mean, having many developers using the same database, that's definitely something that does happen. I would say with Atlas, it happens a bit less. It depends on what kind of application you're building. In some situations, you do absolutely want to connect to the same database, and then this would be a great way, for example, looking at the database users to find out who's accessing. But otherwise, considering that there is a free tier, right, which allows you to start very small. So even if you have just a small thing, you definitely have your own Atlas cluster, and as you scale up and grow bigger, it can grow with you. But yeah, if you really want to get access to the same data, then yeah, this would be a great way to track that.
So just so a few questions here. So we said that we are able to create instances from here. Can we also like delete things from OpenShift and it gets reflected in the cloud instance?
Yeah. So correct, and I think this is an excellent exercise. So let's do that. Let's do that. So you can see what I just did there. I was going into the Atlas cluster resource here, and then it's managed by this Fruits Quarkus MongoDB MongoDB Atlas resource, and then we have this database service something. I actually don't know what DBaaS stands for, but it's something like that. It's also its own resource. Yeah, DBaaS service instance.
Instances.
Yeah. So then I can go on this one. I can basically delete this.
Okay.
And we can have a look also on the cluster side. It's immediately shutting down and cleaning up.
Okay. So it's like bi-directional synchronization. And if we do create something in here directly, can we set it up on OpenShift, like without using the automated integration as well? So say, for instance, somebody has configured a cluster for you with some specific configs.
Yeah, so we saw before that when we started that this kind of cluster 0 was showing up, and I had that created before. So that's something we can actually look at that already now. So if I go over here, we deleted the one of the Fruits Quarkus one, but the cluster, well, it's still being deleted, and this one is still available, right? So that was the one we saw. Yeah, I wonder actually what's going to happen now when we still have this connection. We do need to clean up things in order. That's always a bit of a challenge with all these things. It's easier if you delete them in order, but we'll see.
Okay, but I
see
mean, it's fine. You don't have to demo it. It's just I was wondering if we can like.
Have you seen that when he deleted the binding, the app has been redeployed
Restarted
again?
Yeah.
So removing the secret from the app.
Yeah.
That's very nice as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's cool, Johannes. And as Jafar was saying, if a cluster has been already created, you shown that you can connect from there. What about the in-cluster experience? If I want my now we talked about Atlas, which is a SaaS, but what about if I want to MongoDB in my OpenShift cluster disconnected? Is that possible?
Yeah, exactly. It is possible. So that's you have a couple of different ways of doing that. So there is the community operator. So that's also something that's available to you. And and that's a way to spinning up, let's say, MongoDB community instances. And then you have the MongoDB Enterprise Kubernetes operator, which is also about spinning up MongoDB instances, but then you have them automatically configured to sync up with an Ops Manager instance, which can also run in Kubernetes in OpenShift. And then you get a lot of the tooling that I showed you really quickly. Tooling in Atlas, things like monitoring, things like I actually didn't show you backup, but that is one of those things that are available. Profiler and the Performance Advisor, tools like that, which are connected directly, automatically for you. And then you have the Atlas operator. So, but the Atlas operator, that's connecting with MongoDB Atlas database as a service outside of OpenShift. But those two to the left would be what's available inside of OpenShift.
Cool.
And another aspect with the Ops Manager part there is that if the customer already is running OpenShift with Ops Manager in VMs, for example, and they already have Ops Manager set up outside of OpenShift, they can actually configure the Enterprise Kubernetes operator to point to that Ops Manager as well. So, what that means for an administrator means that they will be able to see not just the MongoDB instances that are created, or let's say VMs outside of OpenShift, but they will also see the MongoDB instances created inside of OpenShift popping up, registering back with Ops Manager.
Nice.
Yeah, I think this is this is really a great mix of a kind of a DevOps way of working, where you have developers able to spin up clusters and work quickly, but you still have all the operations tooling, and you still have your traditional database team, for example, having insight into how developers are using the database. So you still have a way for them to give advice, or and help out with best practice, and an easy way if the developers are, for example, calling the database team and saying, hey, there's something strange that's not working, can you have a look? And they can easily use a great operations tool that they maybe already know to get a great level of insight directly from the tools that they are familiar with. And also for reporting, if you need to report back on the MongoDB usage, for example, having the individual MongoDB databases basically registering back, that's really a neat feature.
Cool. So there's plenty of options. I think for a developer, I don't know what you think, Jafar, Andrea. For a developer, to me, it looks very, very easy, to get started with the sandbox, and then you deploy your app, container image, or you can even start from the Git repository, and it will build, the container. Then you create a cluster in Atlas from here directly, so you don't have to go to Atlas to create. It can be done automatically from. So to me, that looks very, very easy. What do you think about?
That's what I was thinking. That in the case of for developers, you want to get them to not worry about resources on the local OpenShift, or trying to set up indexes or what. I don't know what it entails to do a MongoDB, to set it up in a way that it works for multiple developers, and that goes away immediately if you just work with Atlas at that point, because they don't even have to get out of the UI in OpenShift to do that. Everything is also self-contained. Of course, if somebody has set up the credentials before, it's even easier that way. I think it's quite neat actually that we're able to do that. So get the developer to worry about the applications and not too much about the infrastructure.
Yeah, so I think this is really nice. It makes it very easy for developers to get started. And so I browsed the MongoDB website, and I saw that there are some getting started samples and documentation on how to get started. And I was wondering if there are some sample repos that you can tell us about, or demonstration applications that you guys use. So somebody who wants to experiment with it has something that is like ready to use, or just for if you can share with us few links that are useful for someone who wants to get started.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I was actually, I changed this a little bit. There is, I made a, there's a, basically for this instructions for this, what we just did, will come up into this show Lord OpenShift Atlas. It's a public repo. And we have a little bit of instructions around, in this case, deploying the Quarkus application, and basically the steps that we would, that we would need to do in order to set that up. So
nice.
yeah, that's one example. And
I think. And the next thing is that we need to turn that into a quick start, Natalie, within OpenShift directly.
Yeah. So, you mean the quick start? Just say, Johannes, we have in OpenShift those internal tutorials called the quick starts. Maybe that could be a quick start on Sandbox, because it's really neat. No, it can really help on creating your first RHODA based MongoDB Atlas app that way. Nice.
Yeah, it's like very guided instructions on what you need to do, and then it makes it even easier to consume or try, I would say, the service and understand how it works.
Yeah, so well, let's do it. In the while, Johanna, I'm gonna put the link of a blog post that basically is doing a walkthrough. I think Johannes did a better flow in this. In the blog post, it's a little bit more instruction. I think Johannes has shown us a very nice flow on how to create a cluster and connect them. So the blog post it's basically a walkthrough. But if we do the quick start, it's going to be much better. I agree.
I do have another question, and again, from a developer's perspective. So from what I had read about MongoDB, there was also a search service that if you have to do text search across the documents, and I'll go through indexing, is it something that's already available through the operator, or you have to connect to it in a different way?
Right. I think that is that it wasn't in 0.2. So you needed to do something there. It might be on 1.0. I actually don't know.
Okay.
But otherwise, it's something that you it's basically a special type of index that you do want to control through the API. So it would make sense for the operator to control full text search indexing on Atlas. But yeah, actually, I don't know if that resource is already available. I know that it is available on the let's say raw API, but yeah, I don't know if it's in the operator yet.
But I guess you would still have to have your credentials and all that to access the search kind of service. But yeah, okay, thank you.
Correct. So it's basically access. If you want to make a query with full text search, it's basically you would connect through your database connection and make that search. So yeah, you still need those credentials, and in order to actually activate a search index, then you'd need to use the API, and you'd need to authenticate for the API as well. But that's what we set up in terms of the MongoDB Atlas database provider.
Thank you.
So I do have a different type of question. So we've had like technical insights, etc. And so I see there's a billing tab in there, and I was wondering, like from I would say, billing perspective, when you are in OpenShift using this service, and not using the free tier, is there anything that tells you about like how much the instances are costing, or how much they're going to cost, and things like that when you are starting to create the resources? Is there such type of information?
So
And also, is there some type of control over that, so you don't get like overly excessive bills and stuff like that?
yeah, so you can. I know that there's been some. Yeah, you can set up alerts for the
Okay.
billing.
Mm-hmm.
That's on the organization level, and that's set up over there. And then
Okay.
if you want to, if you want to get a feeling for the pricing, there is a calculator here basically. So when you provision a cluster of something other than the free tier, so now I'm not picking the free tier now, I'm picking the dedicated one. And then, in this case, this kind of instance size here, and it's giving you a calculation of that. So
Okay.
there is an API for that. I don't think that's integrated into OpenShift per se. So that if, let's say, if you're writing a config map, it's like in your text editor, it doesn't show up the price, right? Well, I guess that would, I don't know how you would do that. It would show up here.
Okay.
I guess maybe longer term, it could be an interesting development that when you, if you're in the OpenShift, let's say cluster provisioning, I guess in theory it would be possible, but I don't think I don't know how that's going to play out. But I'm not going to say anything about that. Basically, for now, I would definitely, if you want to, if you're planning to spin up a certain size, I would recommend that you go actually into your project and you use this button here, and you
then connect it to
OpenShift.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, or you connect it,
makes
or
sense.
or you provision it from within OpenShift. You can also do that. You don't actually need to create that one specifically, but you can figure out the kind of parameters, right? So how they are going to impact, right? So in terms of instance size, RAM size, storage, and all of that, then you'll have an idea, and then you can go back into Atlas and set those specifications up and provision from there, from OpenShift if you like.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Very cool, very cool. So, so the people watching us will find in this repo the demo flow, right, Johannes? So if they want to redo the demo again.
Yeah, so that's part of a pull request at this time, but it will be available there. Yeah.
Okay, as soon Joel wake up,
Correct.
Candace, and hello Joel, thanks for also helping us in the demo. So he said that maybe he would join, but I think it's 4 a.m. there, no?
Yeah, it is. It's a bit early. But yeah, I've had great help from Joel, and I think at some point we'll try to make a session with Joel as well, maybe for the US time zones, and hopefully as well we can get back to you and have a session with the Atlas 1.0 operator as becomes available on the sandbox, because I think that the experience is going to be really interesting as well to look into.
Yeah, cool. That's pretty cool. And just to recap, Johannes, so developer people are 3 ways to deploy MongoDB on OpenShift, 3 formal way, right? One is the MongoDB community operator. So basically you can go to the, this is useful when you want to just try stuff in cluster, no? Just to consume the MongoDB database in cluster. And then I put the link in the chat if you are interested on doing that. But if you need enterprise support, or if you need things like Ops Manager, you can install MongoDB Enterprise in your OpenShift cluster, right? This
and I want to mention specifically why you like the reasons why you would want that. So one way is to get an overview of your MongoDB instances from a database perspective. The second one is to get monitoring and metrics to a detailed level to understand what's happening inside of those instances as well. And the third thing is that it allows you to do backup and point-in-time restore. This is something that many, let's say, enterprise-grade applications do require, a way to not lose data. That's not offered by the community operator. And the last thing is the database level encryption. That's also offered by Ops Manager and the enterprise deployments.
Cool. Yeah, that's important. If you think about a security stack where, for instance, in OpenShift, there's the operating system, the encryption of the operating system with looks. Then there's the SE Linux context on the host, on the containers. And then you can also encrypt the database in the encrypted file system. That's a very secure stack, I can say. But the third option, this is what we have seen today, no, Johannes, the MongoDB Atlas operator, which is basically the way to consume databases as a service. And you can, and it's easy. We have seen it's easy via an operator because there's an abstraction, like we have custom resource definition. We have APIs to control this remote database from the OpenShift cluster. And it looks like Joel is up. So good morning, Joel.
Wow.
Happy to do a session US hours. Hello, Joel. Thank you for joining us. It's at 5 a.m. Yes, so we, Johannes, as a recap, this is what is the offer today. So do you have any preference on these three, according to what we have seen today?
If you're asking me, I think, definitely the Atlas part, because it gives you, in addition to just deploying a database inside of the cluster, it gives you a lot of optimizations that we've done for the availability and the smooth operating of MongoDB. It's basically like, it's kind of the promise of the operator that it's actually operating MongoDB for you, but it's on a different level. When MongoDB, the actual MongoDB company is operating your database for you, right? Then an operator is kind of a good step up, but actually having the MongoDB operating your database for you, that's definitely the best place to be.
Yeah, so you are delegating this complexity to a SaaS service, right?
Correct.
Whereas in the in-cluster, you are delegating the complexity to the logic inside Kubernetes. So if you want a full Kubernetes experience, the operator, the enterprise, otherwise the Atlas, it looks like the easiest path, also that you can scale up. And about the scaling up, Johannes, do you? So I imagine there's different tiers, on Atlas.
Correct.
But if, let's say, we have an hybrid cloud apps that is spin up across multiple OpenShift cluster, geographically distributed, do you have any blueprint, architecture, or recommendation reference on how to support such geo-replicated application with Atlas?
Yeah, so Atlas already offers a lot of that out of the box. So I'm glad that you asked. So let's say that we go here and we want to create something and we want to set up, for example, a global cluster, and we want to enable global rights across the world. Then you could pick this kind of template here where you have the clusters set up in the West US, the East US, the South America, in EMEA, you have in APAC North, around Tokyo and Singapore. So you can cover the world. And then if you want, you can actually configure those to be multi-cloud as well. So you can actually say that maybe one of these, actually, I would like them to be on GCP, for example. And I would like that to be in, North Virginia, for example. You can also set those up to be cross-cloud and all of that. So, and the way that we do this is that we can create one global cluster like this, with a single endpoint. So your applications are going to know, basically one address, and then behind that address, it's going to resolve all of the hosts. And based on heuristics, the driver is able to determine which cluster is the closest, and that's the one it's going to talk to. So from an application perspective, it's really easy to set up a cluster like that, because you have one connection string that you would basically one config map that you would push into your set of applications, and then basically the driver and Atlas will figure out what is the best host to connect to.
Nice, interesting.
That's really awesome. And that's probably one of the features that is much easier to get set up as a service than if you were to try to figure that on your own, even if you are using operators and stuff like that. That's still, I would say, some that's some different kind of automation and administration as a service.
Yeah, and actually you are able to configure this kind of complex environment as well inside of the operator. So you could actually have the operator manage also this kind of complex environment, if you like.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting if you want to have an in-cluster strategy where the cluster are geo-replicated. You have multiple clusters. You want to have the in-cluster strategy because you want to have it on the data center or for any other reason. Oh, but
sorry, I was gonna ask, can this be mixed with like an on-prem instance as well? Like you have multiple geo-replicated instances on those hosted services, and one or two instances are like running on OpenShift or even not on OpenShift, but on-prem somewhere, and they can be as well part of a globally managed cluster. Is that something that can be done as well, or?
So the Atlas operator, well, the Atlas in general is really talking only to the cloud instances, right? So this the Atlas part of what you just saw, it's not aware about things that are living outside of the cloud. But if you're interested in that kind of hybrid setup, this kind of enterprise Kubernetes operator with Ops Manager is capable of that, right? So that would be one way of doing that kind of setup, where you still get a lot of the automation that's available in Atlas, but you get full flexibility on exactly how you want to deploy things.
Okay.
And yeah, folks, we are at the end of the session, but before closing up, I would like to put some reminder. So one of the reminder is that we have an OpenShift Commons gathering happening in Dublin. If you are around, and if you would like to hear again about RHODA and MongoDB Atlas, there's one speech from our colleague let me check the timeline. So the speech is from Raghuram Banda, simplifying database cloud services with RHODA. He's gonna do a demo like today using RHODA and OpenShift and MongoDB Atlas. So if you like to attend, it's cool event. And other appointment for today, Jafar, I think in the schedule we have the level up for today happening.
Yes. So this afternoon, and so that's I would say a good continuation, because we'll be covering Quarkus a little bit more in depth with Daniel O, which so I'm sure the session is going to be very interesting and very informative. So don't hesitate to join us this afternoon on the Level Up Hour show.
Yeah, cool. OpenShift TV, Level Up Hour at 3 p.m. chest. We will come back next Wednesday to talk with the Red Hat Hackfest office hour. And take the opportunity to thank Johannes for being our special guest today. It was a pleasure to see you again, Johannes. I hope to see you again in person soon and have coffee or anything you like. In Sweden, what is the most preferred hot beverage?
Coffee actually is a super popular drink. So coffee, yeah.
Coffee,
good.
definitely coffee. Let's have a coffee together. Thank you, Johannes, for joining. Thanks, Joel, for waking up so early. And I hope we can make the same edition in North America, Jafar. The same demo, the same show in that. Thanks, thanks, Jafar, for joining. Thanks, Andrea, for joining. I put the link in the chat of our schedule today on OpenShift TV. Thank you, everyone, and talk soon.
And
Yeah,
see you
thank
all
you.
next week with our IoT folks of the Red Hat Fest.
Yes. See you next week, Wednesday, 10 a.m. Ciao. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.